All right, my towel is at Shungjingji. At least I think that is how that is pronounced. Didn't want to actually show you the road, and I'm not sure how well this is going to show up on film, but I'm going to try and capture this as I come across the street. And waiting for the car, and Jitney. There is an entire solid wall of apartment buildings behind me. So, the idea of population density and the number of people that are living in China, that's sort of a misleading statistic from something that's I've complained about in mathematics for a long time, is that people don't understand how averages actually work, how they function. An example I've used in the past is the problem of going to grandmother's house. You take a bike ride to grandmother's house. It's 60 miles. You travel there at 15 miles an hour. After grandma feeds you, you pedal back, but after all the food that you've eaten, you can't pedal as fast, so you only travel 10 miles an hour. The question then becomes, what is the average miles per hour that you have traveled the entire distance? Well, at first, you're going to think that it's, if you're traveling 15 miles an hour there and 10 miles an hour back, the total is going to be, the average of 10 and 15, 12 and a half. But that's not actually how it works. If you travel there at 15 miles an hour and it's 60 miles, well, you've traveled 4 hours to get there. Traveling back at 10 miles an hour, you've traveled 6. So you're doing there's a longer amount of time that you're spending at the 10 mile an hour rate. So that's going to skew the results off, and it's actually going to be 12 miles an hour. You can work out the math yourself. Another more famous one that this involves is life expectancy. That there's a statistics thrown around. In olden times, people only lived an average of 40 years old. But this does not mean that people were dropping dead at the age of 40 and that somebody living to 70 or 80 years old was this rare phenomenon that barely ever happened. The issue was infant mortality. If you have half the population living to 80 and half of the population dying in childbirth, or never making it past 1 year old, then the average rate that you're going to have is 40 years old. That doesn't mean that people are dying at 40. The averages are different. So in population density, you have issues like what you saw behind me in the solid wall of apartment buildings, that the population there is incredibly high. But average out over the city, that's throwing off the statistic. You think the entire city is a highly densely populated area, but most of it is just single story, merchant shops, factories, not very densely populated at all. But the housing situation, because it is so tight, densely packed, that's throwing off the statistics for everything else. So just looking at numbers and statistics and averages, that really doesn't give you a sense of what things are actually like on the ground. To understand statistics better, you actually have to experience it.